us to another episode of Claiming Your Success, Conversations with Caroline and Sabrina. And today we are joined by the incredible Moira Kucaba. Like, when I say this woman is about to help you literally jump out of your skin to claim everything that your life is meant for, then that's exactly what's about to happen. Moira is a serial entrepreneur. She is a host of her very own podcast, The High Vibe Life. And she's here just to drop some nuggets on us. So Moira, please, would you start? I want to just start by saying we're all in this space because we believe that every woman can claim her success, right? Success is possible for everybody. But unfortunately, as we are all privy to, not everybody does the work to be able to live that reality for themselves. So I would love it if you would take us through your entrepreneurial journey, like from start to where you are now, like the good, the bad, all the ugly, all the things that got you to the unparalleled levels of success that you experience today. Just take us through it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we're just diving right in. I love your by the way, you and Caroline, like I'm already obsessed. I just met Caroline. I'm like, there's a party in here today. I love it. I love it. Gosh, I love the whole journey because there are some really not pretty parts, right? And I think that is so important. So often when I'm introduced on a podcast or a stage, it's, like all these insane accolades. And I personally always sit backstage and I'm like, I don't even know are they talking about me? Like, I know they're talking about me because I know I stand firm in my accomplishments, but I'm like, these people really need to know the other side of this, right? Not just the highlight reel.
And I love that.
And so I will take you
only share the highlight side, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so important to me to not just be the highlight reel. It's so important because I would never have the success that I've had if it wasn't for the direct inverse of all of that. And I believe kind of the lower the low, the higher the rise, right? And yeah.
Caroline's taking notes.
The lower the low. Yes. And so, I go way back. I kind of think the backstory is really important. So I grew up and I've only now at 48 years old, like weaved the pieces together, and I probably haven't weaved half of them together, but I've weaved a couple of them together. I personally always wanted to be a doctor for two reasons. My mom was in healthcare. I know that there was this deep-seated desire as a child to help, right? Now I realize it was to heal, and I get to do that in the work that I do. I didn't connect those dots for a long, long time, but that was something that was born in me. But also what was born in me was the desire for a higher life, right? I grew up in an amazing home with a super loving family. I couldn't have asked for anything more, but I would always say things and my mom would be like, I don't know where you get your champagne taste. And really, truly, I think about that as a child and I'm like, yeah, I really just desired, I had somewhere deep down inside, I thought I can go out there and earn that income. I can build that wealth. And so when I say I wanted to be a doctor, I really wanted to be a doctor because I knew that's where I could help people, but the highest level of income, what I thought, it was like doctors were the ones that made money. And so I desired that from a really young age. And luckily I had the smarts to get myself there. So I was very smart. I was very driven as a young girl in everything I did. I was driven academically, sports, piano, anything you put in front of me, I locked onto. And unfortunately, I also locked on to alcohol when I turned about 14 years old and had my first drink. And so, of course, again, looking back, I can realize this inborn part of me that no matter what I did, it was like I'm jumping into the deep end. That can be a good thing or it can be a very unhealthy thing. And I succumbed to addiction very quickly and very fast. Now it is in my family. It's not in my immediate family. So I didn't grow up in an alcoholic home or anything like that. But, there was always like the uncle that was talked about. And it was like, this is in your genetics. You have to be careful. But I also believe because I was so driven that when I took that first drink, I was like, I can breathe.
So it was like the first release, time, like I get to just be for a second.
It was like a
pause.
Yeah. Yes,
That's
yes.
interesting, because for a woman
And
that is
so,
like drawing that
yeah,
parallel, for a woman that is so driven and so like focused on getting to where it is that you're going to go and climbing that mountaintop, anything that gives you the ability to just like take a second, that would become an addictive thing for you.
yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I just sought that over and over and over again because I had no skills how to do that myself. 35, 40 years ago, we weren't teaching what we teach today. So I just knew that it felt good and it felt like I could take a deep breath for the first time. So I kept wanting to, seek that. And so in high school, I had the SATs and the grades and the sports. So I could have gone anywhere I chose. I could have gone, top 10 school, I could have gone athletic scholarship, but by the time I was a senior, I had thrown it all away. I had thrown it all away. And part of that was my parents.
And
I
a
was the
senior
sixth
is
kid.
like 18.
So they were
Is
like,
that like 18 years old? Senior? Okay. Because we have different grading in the
18 years
UK.
old.
So just
Yeah.
making sure everyone knows
Mm.
what's what. Okay.
But my mom also told me, because I was the last of 6 children, so she had learned a thing or two. She was like, listen, we're not going to waste our money. You need to go to school locally for a year, prove yourself, and then you can go wherever you want. So I also lowered my bar immediately. I'm like, well, if I got to go to school locally, then why am I pushing so hard? So that allowed me to just party more, frankly. And then when I went to college, university, it unraveled and downward spiraled very quickly. And luckily, I found myself, I did a little bit of a geographic. I flew 3,000 miles away from the East Coast to the West Coast, found myself in Southern California. And quick story, by the grace of God, I got sober at 21 years old. So I've been sober I'm 48 now. So I've been sober ever since,
Amazing.
however many years that
Amazing.
is.
Yeah.
So, I thought my life was over.
At 21.
Like, hang it up, put me in a rocking
let's
chair.
pause on that
Yeah.
for a second. Like, imagine being
Definitely.
21 years old and thinking your life is over because of your destructive patterns.
So many reasons, right, Sabrina? It was like so much shame coming from the girl that was supposed to go to the Ivy League med school. I destroyed my life. I destroyed relationships. I had fallen so far behind, like my peers were graduating, then they were graduating with master's degrees. And like, I haven't even finished college. I failed out of college. And so there was so much shame I carried. And, I had to survive at that point. So it was one foot in front of the other, get a job, try to get myself back on my feet. And I always say, listen to the whisper, listen to the whisper. And even back then, it was guiding me. It was guiding me, I think, to Southern California. It was guiding me to sobriety. It's always guiding us every moment of every single day. But I had this really weird experience where I had a sales job. So I was kind of knocking on doors, selling advertising. And I walked into a Pilates studio having no idea what Pilates was. And, it was not very common back then. And it was very higher level. There were people with college degrees and kinesiology degrees and things like that teaching it. And I remember calling my brother that night and I was like, I'm going to do this. And he was like, of course, when you're a big dreamer, your circle, even though they love you, is very used to just like rolling their eyes,
What's the next
like,
harebrained
how about
thing?
you take a yes. But I knew somewhere in my gut, even though I didn't know how I was going to pay for the training, I had not 1 hour a day to put towards it. I didn't know how it was going to work. And so that becomes a common theme on my entrepreneurial journey. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know where I'm going to find the time nor the money, but I'm going to go anyway. I'm just going to make the commitment without any of the head stuff
Let's
figured
pause there
out
for a second,
because something is guiding me.
There's so much already that we've gone through. And the one thing that I wanted to just highlight was being able to continue to take action and still believe in your more, even with that shame monster on your back. That's first thing, right? But then the second thing is like because I know that this is a common struggle, such a common struggle, especially for the women in our circle that are trying to do what they're trying to do. We're all trying to pursue our success, our more. How do you find the ability to continue to move forward and rise and up level, even with that uncertainty? Like, you don't know. You just said, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know why that's calling me to do it, but I'm going to do it. Like, where does the ability to do that come from for you?
I think two things. I think number one, you have to, it's a moment to moment daily decision, right? Like that is a huge leap of faith, what I'm going to do professionally, but it's no different than me coming to a four-way stop and going, something's telling me to turn right instead of straight. Like I could go right to get there, I could go straight to get there, but something's guiding me, right? Like trusting in those little teeny tiny things that don't have you don't think they have big consequences, and then going like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize traffic was backed up over there and I was just guided around that. Those little miracle moments are available to us all day, every day. And when you start to stack, right, the proof, I always say stack the proof. When you start to stack these experiences, the big one doesn't come, it's not as scary because you're like, I have countless little experiences that have proved to me time and time and time and time again that whisper, that nudge is always guiding me in the right direction. And I think the second thing is your circle of influence. Yes, my brother, who I love dearly, he's one of the closest relationships in my life. Of course, he's like, oh, dear God, rolling his eyes at me. But I had other women in my life and other friends in my life, family of choosing, that were like, yes, go for it. Like, follow that. You have to cultivate a circle of women, probably, I would say for women, it's usually women, that are just champions of your dreams. And when you do that, every day I'm met with fear and insecurity, but every day I can call or text somebody that goes, you're going, you're doing it, you're doing the thing. I'm holding your feet to the fire. I believe in you. And that's the difference maker.
Caroline, what does that say to you? Because you just I could see that big smile of yours come on when she said champion your dream, other women being champions of your dream.
No, and it's because where you started talking about your circle, Moira, because that's something that we've spoke about on a couple of episodes now, Sabrina. And for me, I really found my circle only the back end, like of start of last year, end of 2022. So it took a little while. I had people I'd known for 10 years who I'd been around the wrong circle for a whole 10 years. And it took me stepping away from them and finding that new group of women to get me where I am here today. So that was what that big smile was for, because it's that, just finding your circle of women that are going to keep you going and keep rooting for you. And it's like, yes, your dream, go get it. Oh, we just need more of them because there's not enough still. There's not enough still.
Always evolving too. I think people, when they hear this, they think there's like this magical circle, and how in the world do I go out there and create that? I'm like, no, I can even remember like a guy friend way back then in the day being like, yeah, I think you should do it. Like you just need some of those people in your life to make it enough to push you forward. I didn't necessarily have a magical circle back then like I do now, but I had enough voices, right? That were,
I always say, like, find somebody or something that enables you to ride the coattails of their belief, but while you build your own.
Yes.
Right. And it could just be as simple as somebody just saying, just do it. It could be the podcast that you listen to every morning. It could be the devotional that you listen to every day. Whatever that is, giving yourself the ability to like ride belief coming from somewhere until your own is undeniable.
Yes. Yes. So good, Sabrina. I say the same thing. And I think it's one of the most important things to point out is that those voices can be the book that you're reading. Right? Those voices can be the podcast you're listening to, just like you said. It's not, this hard thing to go out there and find. It is literally at your fingertips. There's resources that you can use, whatever messaging you're putting into your ears and into your mind and into your heart, whether it be books or podcasts or whatever, those can carry you through, and they continue to carry us through, right? Even when cultivated that circle. So it's not as hard as you think to get the right voices in.
So true. Such a good point. So get back to your journey. So you said yes to Pilates.
Yeah.
Like we were there. You said yes to becoming a Pilates instructor.
Yeah. So I rationalized it in my head because hello, I'm supposed to be a doctor at this point in my life. I'm like, really? This seems, but again, a common thread, this seems so below what I think it should look like. You know what I mean? This isn't coming in the package that I thought it should be in. And so I rationalized it. I was like, oh, I could make money on the side and go back to med school. Like I had to kind of make it okay with my brain. Little did I know I got into that career. It was so life-giving. I became so good at it. And I carried that on for 17 years, opened multiple studios, moved across the country, hired tons of people. I did so much work in the wellness space, and I was doing all private coaching and entrepreneurship. And so I really got that opportunity to kind of connect one-on-one on a deep level, which is eventually where I landed with coaching people in the mindset space now. So, it's like there were many, I do want to point out, there were many years of that journey that I had days where I thought, I'm only a Pilates instructor. I'm only a business owner. I'm only, when people would say, oh, Moira, what do you do? And I'm like, I thought my whole life I would say, well, I'm a doctor of such and such. I had that identity so fixed in my head. And when people would ask me what I would do, it could easily be received as not as esteemable. And that was hard for me. But I knew that I was doing work that I loved. I knew I was making a great living. And so again, it's not just this smooth path where you feel confident all the time and wonderful all the time. And
that part.
And so I just wanted to point that out. And it took me many years to really get solid in my belief that, like, wait a second, this is exactly where I actually want to be. And I'm dang proud of it. And thank goodness that I didn't take that other path.
Good.
Thank goodness I get to be on this side of wellness and not on the sick side of health. Right.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah.
but gosh, when you're in your 20s and you expected to be a doctor, that's a tough pill to swallow. I mean, I literally would have people saying to me, no shame to aerobics instructors, but I had like a 2-year certification, very in depth. I know all the anatomy and physiology, and they would go, oh, you teach aerobics? And I'm like, no, I don't.
Gosh, this is so relatable. And I like, oh my gosh, it mirrors exactly the experience I had with my husband when I first started network marketing. The very first company, well, the only company I ever did network marketing with, but I started with that. And he was like, he literally was like, that's so beneath you. That was his response. That's so beneath you. Why are you doing that? And his whole lack of support, like not even just not supporting my business in the beginning, like he was vehemently against what I was doing because he thought it was so beneath me. And I just want you to speak to what it takes to be able to have the pursuit of the thing that you, for whatever reason, it just feels right for you, regardless of how it may look on the outside or what anybody else has to say about it. How do you drown out some of that noise so that you can trust yourself enough to make those moves forward?
You lean into that circle of people, right? And that's why network marketing, it can be so powerful because you're always working and collaborating with, you're really working with so many other people. So you're constantly all day long in a circle of influence that can go, it's okay. Be nice to your husband. He's worried about you. He loves you, but you're doing this thing, right? I think when you're a solopreneur and you have that voice of a spouse that might not be believing in your dreams, it's probably 1,000 times harder, but also use that as fuel, right? Use that as fuel. I have coached so many women in network marketing as well. And I don't want to talk in a blanket statement, but the women that give into that opinion and therefore fold on their dreams, do we really think their marriage is better? No relationship should you either side be ever folding on your dreams because
wow.
So for me, pushing through that, and I'm sure for you too, Sabrina, like it was rocky, right? It was very rocky, but it forced communication. It forced conversation. It forced us to go, how are we going to partner and parent through this? Because the roles are being a little bit shifted. I always say when people are like, well, my spouse, and I'm like, you renegotiated the contract. And they're like, and I'm like, if your husband married you and you were going to be a stay-at-home mom and have dinner on the table every single night, and you decided to pursue a business dream, you broke the contract and you need to sit down and renegotiate the contract. That's
I just
on
got
you,
chills.
sister.
Like that
Right?
is
So we
so
have
Such like
powerful.
a
Yes.
drop moment.
Yes.
We say
Pen drop.
drop. Like what?
That's powerful.
Literally.
Powerful.
Yeah. And so we have to take ownership, right? So again, the voices, be careful of the voices, because the voices could, how dare he, da 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 da, and stir you up more, or they could lovingly say, hey, sis, you broke the contract, and this is a huge opportunity for you guys to grow in your marriage and in your partnership, and kind of walk you through what that looks like. And then on the other side of that, oh my goodness, like the level marriages go to, the financial freedom that comes into a family, the belief in each other, like that's what dreams are made of, you know? So yeah, I hear you on that.
So big. Okay, so we've got all the Pilates studios, we've got all the stuff, we're doing all the things. The wheels fell off this thing, right?
Well, the wheels didn't fall off the Pilates studio. I sold the Pilates studio. But again, in that phase of, my kids were very little, they were toddlers. And so I find myself, I think when you're very entrepreneurial, you often find yourself in a very good position, but you're not happy, right? Because we always have to be building and growing. And so 17 years in, I had done and expanded and done everything I could do, and I just was miserable. And my husband's like, you get to basically teach your friends Pilates all day. Your overhead is not that much. You're making a bunch of money. You get to write your whole entire schedule, and you're complaining. And there, again, guilt comes in, right? I shouldn't be unhappy with this life. But I knew how unhappy I was. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this anymore. And so I sold that company, decided to open up a cold pressed juice company. And again, this was a short-lived business when you look at the grand scheme of things. It was about 2.5 years. We took out a $100,000 loan. We're going to launch at another level. We're going to build this company to hopefully be national. And when I say, because I'm an entrepreneur, like I went all in, and it was something brand new. I hadn't experienced that really in 17 years. So I get obsessive with everything, right? Remember, girls, like I go all in. I still do that. And so I went all in. I built the brand. Talk about, like, it was a brick and mortar company with multiple locations all through the city. So there was a lot of learning and figuring out. And I love that. However, that business model, when you have a product that has a 3-day shelf life, it is rough, insanely difficult business, period. And so the business was thriving, but what it required of me as an owner was like 80 hours a week. Like it got to a point where the overwhelmingness of it was too much. My marriage started to really suffer. I felt like I was failing as a parent. And again, here I am between a rock and a hard place, because, you don't take money out of a new business for 3 to 5 years usually. And I thought, we invested $100,000. We borrowed against the house for my dream. And I have to walk away. And I remember, so I kind of fell into this network marketing thing, which I was the one that said, I will go to my grave before I ever do that. I am never, ever doing that. But I fell in love with the product, and I kind of became part of a community of what we're talking about, women that were super positive. They were changing people's lives. They were traveling around the world. They were speaking on stages. They were entrepreneurs at the level I was really trying to rise to. And here I was, literally in a black hole of existence with this business that was killing me. And so I sat my husband down and I said, I am going to pull out of the business. And I remember him saying, we're going to lose $100,000. You're going to lose the potential of this business getting ready to go to the next level. You're going to miss out on the dream. And I said, if I stay, we won't be married and our kids are going to be messed up forever. And I knew that, right? I knew the cost of keeping, because it's really hard to say, when do I give up on the dream and pivot?
Like, when do you know? When do you know when it's right to dig in? And yes, we go through hard times, but it's going to be worth it, and keep going. And when is the right time to hang it up and walk away? How do you know?
It's so hard, right? But I think for me, again, it came to that that, you know, when you get that monkey on your back, that like it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you literally can't shake it. I think that had I not found this other community that in every pocket of time I was like connecting to, and this new source was the only thing sustaining my soul. And 99% of what I would give to my current business was killing me. And so I couldn't deny, like for my family's sake, for my marriage sakes, for my children's sake, like I have to leap over here, even though God, this is something I never thought what are people going to say about me? They're going to judge me. My reputation is going to be ruined forever. Again, all of those fears. And I sat in that for several months, but that whisper got too loud and that pain of the other got too deep. And so my husband, of course, rolling his eyes like, dear
Here we go
Lord.
again.
Here we go again. And I made the leap. But again, I fueled myself with, if I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do it differently than everyone I see out there. And I'm going to go for it. Like, I'm not just putting a foot in the water. I think that's where we mess up a lot of times as for women I coach. It's like they've got 1 foot in over here, 1 foot in over here, and they never really make that decision. You know, it's like people always say, like, I always teach, Tony Robbins says, your destiny is shaped in your moments of decision. And I made a decision, and I remember the date. I remember the day of the week. I remember the hour of the day. And I made a decision that I was going to go all in on this new thing. And when I say that, people are like, well, I feel like I've made a decision. I'm like, well, was it followed by massive, radical action? Like, that moment forward, my whole life changed. You know, every hour of every day looked different. I invested my time in that business no differently than I just took out $100,000 loan to build a business. I better get my booty to work, right? You don't take out $100,000 loan and then go to Target.
I mean,
right?
But wouldn't it be so, like, if everybody had, like, all these women that we mentor, that we coach, that we see trying to pursue their dream, if everyone brought that level of commitment to it, as if, I think maybe that's why entrepreneurship, or at least with a network marketing model or an affiliate marketing model or anything like that, it is such a, you know, some will, some won't, most won't kind of situation, because most don't treat it as if they just took out $100,000 loan and they have to make this baby work.
Yeah. And again, my mindset has always been that everything is a gift. You've heard me say that. It's like my guiding mantra. Anytime I come up against anything negative, how can this be a gift? If God was giving me this difficult circumstance, what would be the reason he's giving it to me? What is the gift? And I even remember like my mom saying, like, oh, well, that was 2.5 years of your life, meaning the juice business and $100,000. And I truly 100,000,000% can look at that experience and say, I never, ever would have had the success that I went on to have building a multi-million-dollar business had that 2.5 year experience not happened, because I understood the time commitment and I understood the mental, I have to treat this just like I took out $100,000 loan. And just like you said, Sabrina, that's what I did. It's the action. I was one time many years ago on a network marketing call, and somebody, kind of in a little snide way, but you know, nothing ruffles my feathers. They were kind of like, well, how many people actually succeed? Because, you know, we all hear the numbers, and they're also skewed because in every network marketing company, customers sign up as affiliates or whatever it is for a discount. So none of those numbers have any, like, they're just not even real. But, you know, how many people actually succeed? And I sat back and I was like, and I remember answering this, not trying to be smart. I wasn't trying to give a snide answer back, but I was like, well, 100% of the people that do what I say, 100%, not the 1% that you read about and want to believe, and you're already coming in with a lack and a scarcity mindset. 100% of the people that follow the direction will absolutely succeed. It's 100% success rate. But the reality is, human beings, 99% of them don't do the action, don't do what it takes to pursue.
That's so big. And Caroline, I know that just hit you in your soul too, because the frustration, I think, of having that kind of what's the word, the skepticism that we have to come up against, and the skepticism that we have to coach people through so that they can get out of their own way. It's like, well, if you, I hate the word just because that it's so much more than just, but if you simply did what we told you to do, then everything that has been possible for us would also be possible for you.
Well, here's a perfect example too, outside of network marketing. And again, so often we've all heard like when people pay, they pay attention. So, I'm in entrepreneurial circles all day long, every day for decades. And so, you and I could chat and be like, well, should I do this? What do you think about this? And this social media strategy? And maybe I'll do that. And then I talk to Caroline, like, hey, I talked to Sabrina. What are you doing? I think da 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 da. Well, a few years ago, I paid a coach $100,000 a year to coach me. Do you think I thought about anything he said or questioned anything? I obviously believed in him enough to say, here is $100,000 wire. And he said A, I did A. He said B, I did B. He said C, I did C. No question. I didn't sit there and go, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do that.
I don't really feel like it
I'm going to go to Target. Right. I just executed on every single thing. And that 100,000 turned into 400,000 that year, right? I launched a mastermind that year for 400,000. And it's because I simply followed action, didn't question it, didn't talk about it, didn't overthink it. I just took action. Now you have to make sure you're taking advice from the right person, right?
That's that discernment.
But yeah, I think the action is the biggest differentiator. And the action being the biggest differentiator only comes from a mindset shift that happens as well. We all know that, right? Yeah.
Oh gosh, so good.
Yeah.
Moira, we're close on our time and I can't even believe it because it's just flown. But I would love to ask, and then Caroline, I'll go to you for your last question. But what now in this phase, knowing what success meant to you when you were 15, being a doctor, being at those higher echelons of not only status but income as was your view then, what does success mean to you now?
I won't mince words on of course, we all want financial freedom and success. So that is obviously a piece of it. I want to be earning a certain income for my family to be able to live the dreams and the life that we want to live, and really for the legacy that I want to be able to leave my family. So check on that. I just don't want to disregard. I don't want to be the person that's achieved the wealth and say money doesn't matter. It matters because money allows you to impact. But that's what it boils down to for me now. The money is there. And so every single day, the only way I define my success is how can I impact more people? How can I change more lives? That's the beauty of financial freedom, is it allows you to completely detach from that and only focus on lives changed and lives impacted. I love
that so much. And it's one of the things that I always encourage my clients on, the women that are building their businesses, is pursue the financial freedom that you want. Because when finances are no longer the monkey on your back, to use your words, then everything else opens up and you can spend your time, your energy, your attention on the things that really matter to you, when that's not a constant thought and a constant struggle and a constant trying to figure out how you're going to make it work. Pursue that to give yourself the breathing room. I think that's so good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, think about, we all know we all believe in the energy and the vibration, and we can have a whole podcast on that. And when you are financially insecure and fearful, the amount of negativity and how that brings your vibration down, it affects every single thing in your life. So if you can, to your point, pursue and achieve that financial freedom, it's just the biggest cloud lifted in the world. So good.
Caroline?
So firstly, right, I'm literally been a representation of how all our audience is going to be listening back to this, because I'm just here lapping up everything you're saying, Moira, right? I'm not usually this quiet, but I'm hearing this tea for the first time, so I'm listening.
So good.
What has really touched me and still in my head is, knowing that you had, the alcohol addiction from 14, you said, right? It was very similar where I started drinking as well. And then where 21 was where you then became sober. So I'm 35, going 36. I seem to attract a lot of the younger generation between their 20s to 23. What would you say to the younger generation? Because I have got a couple of young ones who are going through a lot, and that is actually through like home environments, and they're still trying, just for the fact that they're getting up and showing up every day, like, is enough for me. And I need them to know that they're enough. So, what could you say to those young queens out there? Because I cannot wait for them to watch this episode and hear everything that you've been through and how like amazing you are and your success now. Because it's that is like giving them so much hope. So, yes, what would you say to them?
I love the young queens,
Yeah.
here's the thing: if we can overcome what we have overcome, I believe anyone can overcome anything. Like, you are not your circumstances, you are not your environment, you are not your past. You are defined by what you're doing daily going forward, right? So every single day you dial in your habits, you read and listen to the right things, you plug into a coaching community, you choose a mentor. Every single day you do those things, you are literally writing the script for your future, and nothing is impossible. I mean, I go back to the old quote, I don't know who said it, but like, if the mind can think it, it can be achieved, right? If the mind can believe it, you can achieve it. And that is my truth. I'm like, and I always say, God didn't put a dream in your heart for it to go unrealized. God put that dream in your heart for you to go chase it. Believe in that, lean into those circles, and keep growing. I think the biggest thing that we miss when we think about this generation, because I've got kids getting ready to go to college, and I'm like, how is there not for a lack of a better word, personal growth degree? Like, we should
Telling
all
you.
be.
Mm-hmm.
Send my 18-year-old son to college and know that for 4 years, he is just going to learn and breathe and revel in the world of personal growth. The more books you can read, the more things you can listen to. Every single thought that you allow to enter your brain is changing your brain for a new future you. All the time that you're spending not doing that, you're living in your past self. So don't allow yourself to do that. You can write the script for whatever you want to be going forward. The world is your oyster. And I believe in you. Caroline believes in you. Sabrina believes in you. So
Oh
lean in.
man,
Yeah.
I feel like I can go and like
Beautiful.
lift the world right now. I feel so inspired and empowered by this conversation. Moira, thank you so much for just bringing all of yourself to this space and giving us all of those incredible lessons and learnings, and not shying away from the difficulty and the messiness of the whole thing. And just those last words there, just so incredible. Thank you.
Sabrina, can I add one more
Yes.
thing? Because I really want to just make sure this hits home. First of all, listen to the whisper. But secondly, my belief, and it took me decades to get there, so I'm saving you decades, is that the thing in me that almost killed me, where I was suicidal, that drove me into the depths of addiction, that same drive allowed me to build multi-million dollar businesses. So know that the thing in you that you think is holding you back is actually the reason that you're going to succeed. It's giving you the resolve, the grit, the determination, the tenacity, the ability to do hard things, right? Like, I believe that I am more successful when I say more successful, like, if I go to the top of the company, well, why are you number one in, out of tens of thousands of people? Well, I've been through really hard things, really hard things. So I have no problem doing hard things in my mindset. I have no problem doing hard things in my work. I have no problem just grinding, right? I will always win out because of the thing that I thought was going to hold me back my whole life. And so know, when you have gone through the trauma, you've gone through the tribulations, you're in the difficult relationship, you're in the difficult home environment, like, that is actually your biggest gift for going forward. So I just
So
want that
good.
to
And
land for
Caroline, it
people.
makes me think, remember that crackhead episode that we had? Do you remember when you was like, I'm not going to be outworked by a crackhead? Because a crackhead can always find whatever they need to find to get their drugs, right? So so
I'm
it's
telling
like,
you.
it's to your point, Maura, like in a really silly way, but like, if you've got that commitment, that determination, that drive, if it's driving you to do destructive things, that can also be the thing that drives you to completely turn the boat around and create a completely different future for yourself. I just love that kind of pulling that thread, because I think so many people do look at the things that have gotten them into the pit as that's the thing that is ruining me. That's the piece of my personality that is just a dead end. Whereas actually, if we can unravel that a little bit, maybe there's something good that we can pull from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely there is. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Ah, this has been so fun. So fun. Thank you for
being
having me.
here.
Oh,
Thank you for coming on.
It's been a pleasure, and I know our listeners are just going to love it. Thank you, Moira. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.